Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation! Good evening and welcome back to Computerized Start Live. I am your host, Justin D. Morgan, and at least YouTube seems to be up right now. Alright. I have to admit to you all, I almost just wanted to give up for the week. Because I've had a blah week, and the fact that YouTube had problems on Tuesday wasn't helping the week any. But I finally convinced myself that I got to stream at least once in the week. I can't let myself give up that easily, so here we are! But yeah, it's kind of been a blah week. It started with me having to buy a battery for my car, so there's calibration for how my week's been going. Alright, let's see here. We have Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Hi, Dave. We have Big Mike. Hi, Big Mike. We have SadMac 356. Hi, SadMac. We have Joe's Computer Museum. Hi, Joe. We have SJ Brian EXE. Hi, SJ. And, yeah, alright, so we got the VCF East Coffee Goal, link is in the description. And we're still live, yay. I haven't crashed YouTube. If my channel crashes YouTube, then YouTube has bigger problems. And let's see here. Sedmac says, on the one hand, at least it was just the battery for the car. Yeah, I keep forgetting to schedule my state inspection, so that's when I'll find out if there's any other bad news for my car. I do need to do that, like, sooner rather than later, because this month is drawing to an end. I remembered that as I was walking down to the basement with boxes in my hand. Boxes, you might ask? Why would I have boxes in my hand? Well, I think that's a good segue to our not a sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our favorite segment, Wheel of Regrets. Here's your host, Justin D. Morgan.
Hey, who comes up with these titles anyway?
Because if Wheel of Regrets is a sponsor, I'm paying them! Alright, so let's see what we have on the table. Sadmax says, yeah, who named that section anyway? Let's see here. I see two people down in the basement, and one of them only eats things for lunch. So, yep, that was me. I came up with the name. I was thinking Wheel of Regret, or I was thinking Wheel of Fortune, but the exact opposite. So, yeah, Wheel of Regrets. So, Sadmax says it's a good one. Yeah. All right. So this first package here comes to us from an eBay seller in Miami, Florida. So hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Florida. Probably warmer down there, but at least this week in Virginia has been warmer than it has been the past couple weeks. Also, this package has been, yeah, Dave says, watch out for that T-Rex. Also, this package has been sitting upstairs for a month or two because I put it somewhere silly. I think I actually bought this in December. Or maybe January. Let me see if there's a date on the label. Oh, here we go. Here's a date on one of the UPS labels that's on the box. Yeah, I think I bought this in January, so... This has been sitting upstairs for a month. Because I put it... Anyways, we have keyboard. But it's not just any keyboard. Because quite honestly, I don't really need many more keyboards. But one keyboard I needed was a keyboard like the one I had on my first PC. So here is attempt number 2 to buy my original keyboard, or at least one of the same kind. Because the first one I bought, there's some keys that don't work, and yeah, so I bought another keyboard. So anyways, yes, we have a Mitsumi keyboard. I like the very retro-looking box. Mitsumi Electrical Company Limited, made in Malaysia. The box is recyclable, and if anyone's wondering, it is, yeah, model, USA model KPQEA4ZA. There we go, and there's my serial number. Well, I guess I won't be able to register this with iCloud now. But yeah, a very generic Mitsumi keyboard. We might actually test it later. I'll have to get a AT to PS2 adapter though. Anyways, let's see here. How about let's get this bigger box out of the way first. The next item comes to us from an eBay seller in Colorado. So hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Colorado. I mean, some of my viewers might be eBay viewers in Colorado. Oh yeah, that's right. I bought some big box software. All right, we'll see if anyone can guess what they are. Although I'm pretty sure you could probably read the one well enough. Anyways, we'll see if anyone guesses while I attempt to extract the boxes from their bubble wrap cocoon. Sadmax says, well, I see Norton Commander, but I'm not sure what the other one is. Ooh. It is actually not Norton Commander. I mean, it is Commander, but it's not Norton Commander. Yeah, I guess I realized you could only really read one of the words. I thought someone might have recognized the box, but I don't... the live control panel keeps disappearing, so I don't see how many viewers I have. Oh, yeah, okay. Not many. It would probably help if I was not so busy that I keep forgetting to post social media reminders. I don't know, I'm busy at work, and I like to do them day of, which means I usually have to remember to do them around lunchtime. So we have System Commander. Oh yeah, 11. Yep, 13. There we go. We have System Commander version 3.0. Box is kinda... Looks like someone opened it really weirdly at some point. But yep, there we go. Got the system commander install disk. Oh yeah, that's right. That's why I got this. So not only did it have system commander, but it looked like the person who had this also slipped their System Commander 2000 software in the same box. And sure enough, there's the System Commander 2000 install disk. And what really, really caught my eye is that it included Turbo Linux and Star Office from Sun Microsystems. So this is before Oracle made it horrible. Or I guess before the open source community forked it and renamed it. Yeah, I thought it was neat because the fact that in the later versions of System Commander, I remember they were bundling like a Linux with it. I want to say maybe one of them had Corel Linux bundled with it or something. Like the early ones were just System Commander, so all you got was the system switching software, but the later ones, they got Linux bundled with them as a, here, try this version of Linux while you're multi-booting. Of course, then this software became out of date because I think Grub got to the point where Grub was really good at being able to boot other operating systems. Oh, there we go. It even had the registration cards in the box. Excellent. Yeah, for both versions of System Commander. Excellent. Yeah, I'll make sure I don't misplace those in the basement. So, anyways, we may have to check out the bundled version of Linux at some point and see how cool the System Commander 2000 experience was with a free version of Linux to try out. Also, I guess the reason I picked this up is there's some versions of System Commander that haven't been archived, and I wasn't sure if that was one of them or not. Haven't been completely archived, so anyways. Yeah, I'll take care of that too if I find out that is one of the versions. But I kind of always liked the box, the System Commander box. I mean, that actually looks cool enough that might actually appear on my shelf at some point. Just the kind of the old school knob that you'd like dial your operating system. Yeah, it is a very neat box, and maybe really what I wanted was the box of that one. But the seller had this software as well, if I can figure out how they tape the bubble wrap. Yeah, totally for sure. I probably will put the box somewhere where it will be visible at times. But the other one was Partition Commander. Free inside Personal Edition System Commander. So that was kind of the neat other pack-in they did, I think, to try to sell their software, was they included yep, so there's the Partition Commander discs. And interesting. Oh, System Commander Personal Edition. Let me see if it mentions if it's on a separate disc, because those are the only two discs in there. Oh, when you install Partition Commander, you will be prompted if you wish to enable System Commander Personal Edition at the same time. Okay. Oh, I bet it's on the same disc. I mean, System Commander is not a huge program anyways, so it probably is on the same disk. Yeah, it's not mentioning anything about a separate disk, so that probably is correct. Yep. I'm just flipping through the manual here. Preface, introduction, system requirements. Requires 4 megabytes. Oh, this must Partition Wizard requires 4 megabytes while it's running. 8 megabytes recommended. Wow. I bet this must be an old, I think this is an early version of Partition Commander. I bet it would run on a 386 even. Warns you do not use a DOS box to install it. It wants you to go to the actual command prompt. Yep, but no mentions about an extra disk for System Commander Personal Edition, so it is probably on the install disk for Partition Commander. Anyways. Okay, so this box isn't quite as neat. I mean, it still looks cool, but I like the System Commander box better. Probably because it's much simpler. And I guess, okay, so this is, I think, on the shrink wrap, this $20 rebate offer, but still kind of the free inside and the, I don't know, I mean, it's still neat, but I think of their software packages. This box is just simple, and you can tell what it does just by looking at the box, and it's like 3 colors on the box. Red, yellow, and blue. And, well, I guess white. 4 colors. Because that... Although that could be the white color of the cardboard of the box. So maybe that is only 3 colors. Because I think that text is dark blue, actually, not black. So yeah, they printed it 3 colors. This is kind of... Yeah, I can tell you're splitting the disc, but it's just not quite as simple. Anyways, I still kind of thought it was neat. Although this, anyways, yep, there we go. System Commander, Partition Commander. And, yeah, kind of a neat pickup. I really, the System Commander was the main reason I bought what I did. Alright, so the next item comes to us from eBay seller in California, so hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in California. And I actually opened this box because the carrier forgot to scan the box, so I didn't get an email from eBay saying the item was delivered. So I didn't remember which item it was, so I had to open the box to make sure it was... Actually, I didn't... It's like... Yeah, so anyways, that's why the box was already opened. I had to open it enough to realize that, oh yeah, that's right, that did go out for delivery. Because I don't think this ever got scanned for delivery. So anyways, you might remember a couple weeks ago, I had bought a SATA disk module that was 8 gigabytes. Well, I decided to buy a couple more and a 16 gigabyte module just for good measure. And the eBay seller reached out to me and said he was out of the 8 gigabyte ones. Can I just send you all 16 gigabytes? So I said, sure. And so this is for... oh, it looks like it's 5. Yep. Yeah, 5. Okay, maybe I did order 5 total modules. Anyway, so I got 5 of these SATA disk modules, so I should be set for plenty of vintage computers. So anyways, there we go. So thank you to that eBay seller. And yes, I told him that, yeah, that substitution's fine. Sometimes I don't like buying drives that are too big and wasting the space, but if he's going to sub them up to 16, sure. Most systems will be fine using them as an 8 gigabyte if necessary. Hi, Socket Wrench. Welcome. Socket Wrench says, sometimes when I order things, I intentionally try to forget that I did so I can have a little surprise later. Yes, I had a little surprise, but then luckily, once I opened the box, I knew what it was. Anyways, this next item comes to us from an eBay seller in Texas. So, hey to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Texas. And this... Oh, well, looks like Oh, yeah. What could this be? Oh, it's a, did I buy drill bits from eBay? Okay. Sometimes eBay seller packaging is really scary. And there we go. It is an AMD K6-2450 because I needed another AMD K6-2 like many other things I don't need. So there we go. We'll see where this trend goes. Sadmac says, pretty sure that's not ESD safe. Well, don't worry, Sadmac. We will be putting this one to the test tonight. There is a reason why the thumbnail had a K6-2 processor on it. I mean, at least they put it in an anti-static bag. But yeah, they totally, okay, I'm not going to... Okay, there are certain things that I just don't want to know what they are. That blob on that drill case kind of was a certain color that I'm just going to throw that away. All right. Next color is the next item is from an eBay seller in Washington State. And in fact, I do like the city name here. Kirkland. For anyone that is a Costco aficionado, Kirkland Select, I believe it is the Costco store brand. And I want to say that Costco might have been founded in Kirkland, Washington. So I guess hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Washington State, as well as any of my fellow Costco aficionados. Words can be hard sometimes. All right, and there's my packing list. Also looks like this person might order from DigiKey. Sadmax says, hopefully it works though. Yeah, well, yes. Oh, look! It's another AMD processor. It's like when I scheduled this live stream, I might have had an inkling, just maybe a hint of things to come from eBay. All right. Now this one had better work. because this is an AMD K6 3 Plus 450. All right, at least the pins look in good shape. All right, we are going to slip that back in its anti-static bag, because I don't know that I necessarily want to admit how much I paid for that. I did pay less than they usually go for, but I still don't like to admit how much I paid for things like that. Because it kind of hurts when you pay what seems like it was the original price for things, potentially. Alright, and this final item in this really cute box that I didn't even realize the Postal Service had a label size that fit on a box this small. But, well, the eBay seller did print it. But you're probably wondering, well, how big is the box? Well, all right, at the risk of being blamed that Americans will use anything but the metric system, it is about 1 1/3 72-pin Sims long. And it's what, about 3/4 of a 72-pin Sim wide. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I don't know where I put my metric tape. Oh, there's my metric tape measure. Yes, I actually do have a metric tape measure. So for those of you that use metric system, it's 145 millimeters long by 84 millimeters wide. Yeah, and there's actually a USPS label on one side of the box. It's not like a wraparound. So anyways, this comes to us from an eBay seller in Arizona. So hi to all my eBay sellers and viewers in Arizona. Interesting. It's in a Fairchild box. All right. And what could this be? What could possibly top the last item I opened because I didn't realize that was the one I wanted to save to last? Well, sorry, this one's not going to top it. I can only buy one chart topping processor per month. And that's only on special months. It is another AMD K62 processor, though. Socket Wrench says, I live in this silly country and I've set everything to metric in my house. I have forgotten Fahrenheit. Well, at least I used some metric, so there. It's an AMD K62 Plus. And for everything I spent on the K63 Plus, I think the seller was selling these for like $25. I don't know. The seller of those, they had a bunch. They may still have a bunch. Because the thing is, I think in reality, everyone wants the 3 Plus and the 3. So the 2 Pluses can go for reasonable prices. And in fact, actually, I've seen a number of sellers on eBay that I think they have like a tray of K62 Plus processors. Yeah, if you want a K62 Plus, I would be careful about like how much you pay, because I've seen them go for really decent prices. Oh yeah, it was $24.95 plus shipping for a K62 Plus 450. The K62 450 was $10.48 plus shipping and tax. So the total was $14.02 for that one. Yeah. Yeah, so the K62, $450, $14.02. The K62 Plus 450 was a total of $36 with shipping. And then the K63 Plus, yeah, I'm not sure I'm willing to admit what I paid for it. I will say it was a good multiple from the cheapest processor I showed. But I waited till I found one that was priced closer to what I thought they should go for. And yeah, we are going to actually try all those processors. The K62 450, the K62 Plus 450, and the K63 Plus 450. And I even thought about buying a K63 450, but well, A, I haven't seen any listed, and B, I only need, I have one that's close enough to a 450 will interpolate results. All right, so let's see here. I mean, I could. So here's the deal. I could bring out the Asus motherboard that we'd been testing processors in, but that Asus motherboard has a known issue with the Plus processors. Although I think it also has an issue with the 500 megahertz and later AMD processors that was supposedly fixed in a BIOS update. And I theoretically am running a version that has that fix, but I don't know that I am. So I'm actually thinking I should probably go grab my other Super Socket 7 motherboard, which actually works properly with the Plus processors. It's also, I think, a back in the day what I would have called a decent Super Socket 7 motherboard. I guess let me go grab it. It's probably the one we should use for testing because it is not going to do well. Actually, the Asus motherboard I have, the community has identified a fix I could implement, but I don't know where my resistor would be right offhand to actually do it. Although, if you all would humor me for a moment, maybe I will take a quick peek through the box that I might have a resistor in. Basically, I need to install a 1K resistor between two pins of the processor socket. And I think what that's doing is it is pulling the signal. I think it's basically a pull up resistor. All right, I'll take a quick peek for a resistor. Let's not give up on the Asus motherboard. I'm going to need to do the fix anyways to be able to properly use it. So I'll take a quick peek if I can find a 1K resistor. Actually, let me first make sure that's the size I need. Let's see here. There was one, oh, that's right. I had one other box that I brought downstairs, but it was my Console 5 order, so it doesn't count for Wheel of Regrets. Let me see here. It is the Asus P5A plus processor fix. Oh, all right. Hold on. Let's see here. Actually, let's see. I'm double checking the resistor size I need before I go tear through, and I'm fairly sure I should have a 1K resistor. The problem is, all right. So someone on the Vogons forums posted that they fixed their board and they used a 1K resistor to pull the right back, right through line up to V core. And unfortunately, they link a forum post for a forum that has gone away. So I can't check that forum to see if they recommended a particular resistor size. Because a 1K pull up is rather strong. But then again, I don't know what um I don't know what the driver is in the chipset. Because obviously it sounds like the bug on the Asus motherboard is maybe Asus failed to put a pull-up resistor on this one signal, so the fix is you add a pull-up resistor to the underside of the board on this signal. And my best guess is a 1K resistor is probably what I should use, because at least someone online has posted that they successfully did it. Anyways, I guess um in the interest, if anyone, in the interest of posterity, and if anyone wants to see the what the fix is. So there's a picture of the fix we need to do. So they've used a 1K resistor, and I don't think I've got any surface mount 1K resistors. I probably have some through hole ones, which might have the added benefit that I could just run the resistor leads to both sides. But anyways, there's the one pin on the socket, and then this is V 3.3 volts down here. I'm fairly sure that's the VCC side of it, because if you'll note, uh, a lot of these pins don't have connections. So I think these are the VCC and ground pins, and I think this is that right back, right through signal line. Hello, Mike's Future Retro. Welcome. I'm about to go see if I can find a resistor so we can attempt this mod on a board. Okay, so I couldn't find 1K, but I found 1.8K. Probably close enough. Oh, Jean Paul. Jean, Jean Francois Paré. Welcome. Alright, so I found some 1.8K resistors. They're probably close enough. And I could put two in parallel, which would give us 900 if 1.8K isn't enough. So, let's do this. All right, first of all, let's make sure that this picture on the forum post is at least some resemblance of the board I have. Because I'm going to depend on it to connect the resistor. So, it does look like, at least at first glance, it does look like it is the same board. And at least according to the forum post, I think we connect the resistor. Oh, I think I can use these vias here on the. I think I can use those vias as a counting reference. And it looks like 1, 2, 3. Looks like the pin I need to connect is between the 4th and 5th one. So let's see here. 1, 2, 3. Looks like it goes on that pin there. That does match the picture. Okay. I think that's a fairly easy connect point. I can just solder the one end of the resistor lead to that. I probably will put some. I'll put some Captain tape underneath the resistor, and I will just bend the lead so that it won't touch anything. I'll make sure the Captain tape is big enough to cover these exposed vias. So that's the one point that we have to solder to. The other one is, I think there's a number of pads I could solder to, but I'm going to solder to the same one because I know it, based on this forum post, it works. Captain tape, yes. Captain tape to the rescue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kind of 6. So let's see here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I think it's that pad right there. Yeah, the one that's. There we go. Yeah, it's going to be that pad there. All right, I think that's a pretty easy mod. Yeah. Sakarin says, "Thank God you're here, Captain Tape." Yes. I don't think I could. I don't think I could solder that resistor on and not short anything without Captain Tape. So I'm certainly glad that it was invented. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is, because I would like to at least be somewhat methodical here, I'm going to make sure the board still works. I know some people might be too excited at the prospect of fixing factory defects, and they might forget to test their board, but I have seen plenty of times on this channel where the board fails spectacularly while we are using it. So while I can't say that my repair skills are always on point and never destructive, I at least want to make sure this board works before I mod it. And then that way I know that um, it at least worked before I modded it. Now, the other thing I want to do Sadmek says, so excited about fixing a factory defect that it ends up in a "we did it, Patrick. We saved the city" moment. Well, the factory defect being that, for whatever reason, version 1.05 and 1.06 of this motherboard does not play well with the Plus CPUs. Granted, they might have come out after this board, but I wouldn't mind if they worked. All right, so let's see here. Oh, that's right. I think this motherboard probably needs recapped. It does not always post the first time. Or apparently the second time. All right, let me make sure. Oh, am I maybe on the wrong No, not that I'm on the wrong capture input. Hmm. Maybe I should switch to a PCI video card. All right, let me switch video cards here. Um. All right. Do I not have something plugged in? Interesting. All right. Just realized my contact cleaner is still in my garage. Trying to clean the corrosion off the old battery of my car. That did not fix the problem. Interesting. Very interesting. So, if you'll remember, I had that socket 4 motherboard, and I was using this power supply to try to power it up, and never got it to post. In fact, actually, the post card is still in it. So let me see if I can grab the post card. And I'm not saying that this power supply is the problem. Because I've had trouble getting this board to post before, and it probably needs recap, but I am going to say that I do find it rather odd that the first board I tried to power up with this power supply after the socket 4 motherboard that wouldn't post is also seemingly also not posting. Right, I think that's the speaker. All right. I got the post card connected. And, well, we've got no post codes. Oh, that's what that button does. Well, I managed to get it to eke out a Chance Lavin, welcome. Chance says my first new build was a K62 550 PC back in 2001. Nice. All right, I know we had this board working previously. I'm looking to see if I have another can of contact cleaner down here because I don't really want to have to go walk to the garage. All right, no post codes. Okay, on these like two post code number displays, this one's always the current one, this is the previous one. So in reality, it and dashes mean it hasn't seen it post code yet. I power cycle it really quick. All right, so this board is. All right, I guess last shot. Let me unplug the drives. Maybe remove the video card. Let me just see. Granted, yeah, no, that's not the same slot I had the post card in. Let me just see what it does without. All right, I'll unplug the PS2 keyboard. Nope. All right. I don't remember changing the settings on this board. Let me double check real quick. All right, so it's still set to 100 megahertz. For the processor that's in it, it should be set to a 4x multiplier. That'd be a 231223. No, it is not set to a 4x multiplier. What's it set to? It's 122323. Oh, hold on. I read that backwards. It should be, for 4x, it should be 231223. Nope, that is not correct. It is 122323. It is set to, oh, it's set to a 5x multiplier. Oh. Oh yeah, that might actually explain it. I apparently put a processor in the socket, and probably because I removed a processor. Anyways, let me go. Actually, here's what we're going to do. So here's our K62 450 from Wheel of Regrets. I have a feeling that processor didn't like being overclocked. While some of the K62s I've heard can overclock well, that might have been more than that one could do, because there was only a 400 megahertz processor, and I was trying to clock it at 500, probably because I removed the processor that was in here, and just put something in the board to keep it from getting lost on my bench. And probably what I should have done, knowing myself, I should have probably set the jumpers, even if it was after the stream was over, so that the board matched the processor that was in the socket. Because I should know myself better than that. Am I going to remember I put a CPU in the socket just to keep it from getting lost? Nope. All right, let me. This is how convinced I am that it's probably going to work now. I'm not even going to bother putting the postcard in the first time. Oh, wait. That's right. This is a Wheel of Regrets processor. Yeah, I should... Oh, there we go. Okay, I think the problem was I was overclocking that first processor. Yeah, C1 was... Jean-Francois says Arrow C1 may be RAM related. So say some people in Reddit. Yeah, probably... Oh. Let's plug these ribbon cables back in. Well, I mean, yeah, it could have been RAM related. CPU was too overclocked to be able to successfully access the first 64K of memory or something like that. Yeah, it could have been RAM related. It's just it was more accurately CPU was overclocked related, but yeah. right, so this K62450 works, apparently. We'll run a few benchmarks to get a baseline, and I'd like to see if it shows the same problem as the 500 megahertz, where its performance is really low for what it is. So let's just go straight to SpeedSys, because that's where it'll show the problem. Nope, that actually... looks correct. All right, while this runs, let me go grab the 500 processor. I put my processors... No, actually what we'll do, we'll test the other two. We'll test the 2 Plus and the 3 Plus. So the 2 Plus has a 2-volt core, so I'll need to adjust the core voltage. And the 3 Plus is also a 2-volt core. All right, so I'll have to adjust the voltage, but then we can run them without any changes. All right, so for the K62 processor benchmark, it's falling between the Pentium 2 400 and the K63 500. So that seems about right. So we'll keep that in mind. Let's see here. Let's see here, and I guess to and we'll run Doom just to kind of make this quick, so we can get to this mod. I'm going to just run SpeedSys and Doom. All right, and our frames per second were 136.79. So, how about, in order for me to remember these, I will I'll just put this 136.79 FPS. All right. Put it in the chat. That way I'll be able to refer back to it. All right. I think I can remember what SpeedSys was. All right, so let's go ahead and... Let me go ahead and change the voltage setting. I'm fairly sure this board can do 2 volts. Or can it? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Or is this one of those boards that... All right, I'm actually not sure if this is going to work. I just remembered there's a non-zero chance that this is the board that some of them have the wrong voltage regulator, and 2 volts is meaningless. So this may not actually work. I'm going to test it with the K62 450. I'll put a postcard in. Oh yeah. Um. Well, guess what? We're not going to be able to test that fix. If I move that back to 2.2 volts, arg, it's so finicky. Of course, that's assuming that. The processor is getting warm. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, please. I am finding the switch screen on this board frustrating. Alright, so that's a 2.4 volt core. Oh, I bet the. Oh, I had this. I think I had this board set wrong. What did I have this board set to? 1 2. I had it set to 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 3. Oh. All right, so that should be correct for 2.4 volts. 1 2 1 2 2 3 1 2. Did I fry this processor? That is the question, but I have a feeling this board is the one that doesn't output 2 volts. I'll check the retro web. Nope. There we go. Apparently I caught the error in time. Alright, so let me check the retro web on this board. Wait. Alright. Here we go. Alright, P5A. On Rev 1.06 and possibly 1.05 boards that have the HIP 6004B core voltage regulator can only go down to 2.1 volt core voltage, making the 2.0 volt setting output 0 volts instead. All right, which one do I have? Microscope time. We might have to test this fix a different way if I can't use the other two processors. I think that is the voltage regulator chip. HIP 6004. Now, it's upside down, but yep, that's the B revision. B revision does not do 2 volts. Wah, 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 wah. I mean, I think 2.1 volts is technically within spec for the 2.0 volt. But I'm not going to push it. I guess to test this mod, seeing as I don't have any plus processors that are not 2 volt, maybe I should go grab the 500 megahertz that was giving us trouble instead, because I'm thinking this mod may... No. How about let me just go grab the other motherboard. We'll do this mod another day when I can actually... When I have a processor that shows the problem that I can actually use for testing without overvolting the processor, because it's not like AMD is going to spin up the fab to make more for me. So, alright, well, I'll make a note to try to find a 1K resistor so I can use the actual value suggested. But until then, oh, let me take our Wheel of Regrets K62450 out. Oh, I think I know how I had this set before. I had this board set for 2.2 volts. That's why I got confused when I was changing voltage. Because the processor I had in here to start with was a 2.2 volt processor. That's why I got confused. Okay. All right, let me go grab the other motherboard and we will test all the processors and we will make sure they work. Well, I don't know that I need the cotton swab box. You'll see why in a moment. All right. Oh, actually, I thought I had it screwed into the removable motherboard tray on my case, but I did not. So, here we have what I believe is the motherboard I had in my second PC, or at least one like it. And while I have my phone in my hand, because I am watching an eBay auction that ends in 4 minutes, we have the Epochs EP MVP3 G5 motherboard. This is a Super 7 motherboard. We have 2 ISA. Yeah, we have 2 ISA, 5 PCI, and 1 AGP. That actually matches the Asus motherboard. But the G5 and this part number means this motherboard has 2 megabytes of cache on the board, which is the most that the VIA MVP3 chipset can support. And this motherboard is the VIA MVP3 chipset, unlike the other one, which is the ALI M1541. I mean, I think they're both totally acceptable chips. But I think I do like the VIA one better. I think it might have been maybe at least closer to launch. I think it might have been the more stable of the two. Now, let me go see if I can find a shop towel here real quick. While I decide if I want to bid on the item I've been watching. Kind of leaning towards no, actually. Yeah. Kind of going for a bit more than I want to pay. I wanted to try to get it closer to the starting bid. Yeah, let me see here. I had a roll of shop towels, but they're in my garage, so let me see here. I've got more shop towels over here. And oh, we got 10 seconds left on the eBay auction that I'm not bidding on. We'll see what it actually goes for. It was a Tandy LT, a Tandy 1400 LT. I decided I'll wait for VCF East. Because I might actually, because I've got like a couple that I might be able to fix if I can manage to figure out what parts I need to order to fix them. Or maybe at VCF East I'll find one at a similar price and not have to pay shipping. That would also be a win. Those things are kind of fragile. So anyways, the reason why I'm wiping the thermal compound off this processor is because the heatsink I'm using tonight has a thermal pad on it And I don't want to get thermal paste on the thermal pad because it's a reusable thermal pad style. Anyways, so we got the Epox EP MVP3 G5, 2 megabytes of cache via MVP3 chipset, and the processor that came with this motherboard, believe it or not, was an AMD K6 400. So I am going to make sure this board still works using that processor first. I will use the same video card, even though it doesn't quite match the motherboard as well as the Asus one, because, well, Asus used gold PCBs at the time, and Epox, I'll use green. And plug power in. Basically, this is just an ATX extension cable that I cut down to 20 pins because my bench supply does not have a removable 4-pin extension. And there's a lot of motherboards like this one that there's something right beside the socket that would prevent you from seating it down well if there's something plugged in there. So I know this board is configured for this processor. We'll go ahead and benchmark it first. And then we will test the other processors. Let's make sure that this works. And let's see here. There we go. Power on. Oh, looks like the motherboard powered up. And unlike my Asus motherboard, this one is powering up reliably. So there we go, AMD K6 400. And I believe I am running the latest BIOS on this board. I am going to double check that. It is the August 6, 2001. All right, so Epox. EP-MVP3. Yeah, if you want to look this board up on the RetroWeb, you need to search for EP-MVP3G. You don't include the 5 at the end of the part number because, well, actually you might be able to include it. All right. Yes. I think that does appear as if that is the latest version that Epox released. So that is good. It should support any of the processors we try tonight. So let's go ahead and first run cache check. Or CPU check. There we go. AMD K6 3. And it's 400 megahertz. And we have MMX and 3D now. We have integrated L2 cache is 256 kilobytes. And then I think if we run cache check, we should see that we have 3 caches. Or we might see that we have 3 caches. It is quite possible that memory access might be fast enough on this board. It could be hard to discern. Although I do see it on the chart. There is a speed difference between 2 megs and 4 megs, so Yeah, actually, I think I can see it on this chart. So up to 256K, I think the reason why it's showing dashes is because that time was so fast. It was probably sub 1 millisecond. Hopefully, we'll see down below because the probably is very fast internal cache. But yeah, the moment we had to go out to the motherboard to the external cache, the level 3 cache, 2 microseconds per kilobyte. So I don't know. Oh, and I got 64K, so we'll be here for a moment. So I think one of the, I guess, last live stream I had alluded to the Super Socket 7 platform as being a mess. I think one of the reasons was, at least early in the platform's history, drivers for the chipset weren't that great. I think by the end of the cycle, the chipset drivers were pretty good. But I remember some of the early times trying to get AGP cards to work on Super Socket 7. That was painful because the drivers weren't that great. But I think the other problem was a lot of the Super Socket 7 motherboards, they only put 512K of cache on the board. But I think really 1 or 2 megabytes is what the platform really needed, because the K6 processors were, I think I remember it was their memory access off the chip was their bottleneck. They were hungry for data, and I think that's why they run best at the 100 megahertz bus. And yeah, having a lot of that fast cache to feed them is essential. But a lot of the Super Socket 7 boards only came with 512K cache on the board. And I'm sure it came down to cost. But yeah, I was lucky enough to see this board on eBay because it had the 2 megabytes of cache. And I think back in the day I had one of these boards, and I think I had the 2 megabyte cache version. Now, the one thing I don't exactly remember is which processor I had. I need to go back and look at my old emails to see if I still have them. I have yet to find the email where I bought the processor for my second PC. Or at least some breadcrumb. Or maybe not the email where I bought it, but the email where I sold it. That would also tell me what I had. I don't necessarily remember having the fastest one for the platform because I was a college student, or high school to college student, so it was still kind of budget, but I think I might have had a 450 megahertz processor. But I can't remember if it was a 2 or a 3 or a 3 plus. Or maybe it was just the 2 plus. So when I actually put the second PC rebuild back together, I am going to take more liberties than my first PC rebuild. Because my first PC, I took photos of it and I figured out what I had. And it's as faithful as I can do to a rebuild. There are a few components I haven't been able to find exact models. Just because I think some of the parts were very unreliable as time marched on, and some of the parts were probably just intermediate steps to a faster speed that came out the next month. So the window of time where specifically the CD-ROM drive I had, I think the window of time where the CD-ROM drive I had would have been for sale was probably small because I had a 16 speed, but I seemingly remember 20 speeds coming out like soon thereafter. So it's one of those. I think the actual 16 speed drive I had was just not on the market long because they moved on to 20 speeds or 24 speeds. And I think that's what I ended up with. I think I found I think I ended up using a 20 I want to say it was maybe I found the 24 speed of the same brand. So I decided to go with same brand, slightly faster drive because at least it looked the part. I still occasionally keep my eye out for possibly finding the actual drive, but there we go. Oh, that's interesting. So so this cache check is seeing 2 caches, but there's actually 3. I think the level 1 cache is so fast and rather small that it just can't discern it. But there we go. That's pretty good. So this is the K6-3400. All right, so let's go ahead and benchmark this. So we're going to run Doom. Interesting. 102.6 frames per second. Interesting. I thought that would be faster. Then again, that is still pretty fast. All right. But let's see what SpeedSys shows. All right, so it shows the performance is about equal to Pentium 2 400, which that sounds about right. I think at least for integer workflows, the K6-3400 was close enough to the Pentium 2 400. Floating point, yeah, you would have told because Intel had the better floating point engine, but integer workloads, I think it was close enough performance. Still kind of intrigued by that Doom result. Alright. Well, let's, alright, so... Alright, so let's go ahead and take take this processor out. And let's go through the potential eBay regret processors. Now, the one thing I like about this motherboard is unlike the Asus motherboard that has these complex, like 3 and 4 jumper matrices for setting the voltage and bus speed and multiplier, this motherboard at least has the courtesy of having a single jumper for bus speed and a single jumper for multiplier. Now, I think the voltage is dip switch block. So, alright. I guess they can't all be winners, but that's usually because the voltage regulator chip has a couple inputs, so you're usually directly programming it. But anyways, down here in the corner, let's see if I can zoom into it before I can knock stuff over. There we go. So I do like this though, so I can very clearly see that this board is set to 100 megahertz bus speed and a 4x multiplier, because that was a 400 megahertz. So for these last tests, I'm going to move it to the 4.5 multiplier setting, like so. Oh, actually, there we go. There we go. So that is a nice touch. Now the voltage dip switch, at least it is silk screened here. So for the first processor, we're going to try. I'm going to basically walk us up the 450s I bought from eBay. So the first one we'll do is the K62 450, which is a 2.4 volt core. Because processors have different performance in different motherboards. So for 2.4 volt core, oh, switch 3 is on. Oh, actually, I think. Oh yeah, that K63 I had in there is a 2.4 volt core, so no change needed to that dip switch block. So we set the multiplier, and yeah, there we go. We should be good to go. And let me see here. Power switch is power. Is that it? That's right there. K62 450. Well, I have. Oh, I got 256 megabytes of RAM in this board. Also, I just realized I may have. Oh, that's actually. I don't know when the last time I had this powered up is, but I think it was when probably when we had daylight savings time or something. So I think this clock was only 30 minutes off. All right, well, that's good. At least the clock is right. Caches are enabled. Yeah, that's all fine. Parity check disabled. Um, we can cache the system BIOS. Let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, power management disabled. Plug and play OS installed. Yep, that's correct. Yeah, that's all fine. All right. Actually, system BIOS cacheable may increase performance drastically, and that might be why the other board is working faster. All right, K62 450 bought from eBay. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll be thorough. So check CPU, we got an AMD K62, Chomper extended, 450 megahertz. All right, that all looks good. Cache check. I'm not going to run it this time. We'll run Doom and Speedsys. .63 frames per second. All right, that is slower by about 8 frames per second on the K63 400, which that sounds about right because the K63 has a larger has a level 2 cache on board, whereas the K62 does not. So the 2 megabytes cache on the board. Actually, we will run cache check because in this, I forgot, there's only the level 1 cache in the processor. And yeah, I think it's a 32K cache. Actually, I think it is 64K cache, but it's 32K data and 32K instructions. I think they were still doing a split level 1 cache at the time. I know at some point processors just made it a unified level 1 cache, but I think the K6s, they were still splitting data and instructions in half the cache. So I think that's why you see the number appear at 64, because it's a 32K data cache. Also, I think on megabyte 0, the reason why you don't see it test all the way up to 2 megabytes is because it's the first megabyte, so it can only go up to 512K. Then I think that's why it jumps up to 4, so it can actually test 4 megabyte chunks. So we can try to test all 3 processors. I'm not going to rerun cache check on the Plus processors because they'll be very close to the K63. So I'm not going to run cache check on them. We'll just run Doom and Speedsys on them. I thought I'd run cache check on this one to show there's only the one built-in cache. Because running benchmarks is such captivating entertainment. So don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when I go live next. Pending hopefully no YouTube issues, I will hopefully be back to 2 live streams next week. I think next week's live streams will be on Tuesday and Thursday. And while I've got live streams scheduled for Tuesday and Thursday, topics subject to change without much prior notice. Hopefully, is the YouTube chat behaving? Could just be in the Thursday night lull of the chat. Sometimes when I haven't seen anything in the chat for 30 minutes. Oh, almost 45 minutes at this point. It's when I really start to wonder, have I Are people screaming at me in the chat on YouTube, and due to some chat problem, OBS has stopped updating the chat? And then most of the time though, I'll then log into YouTube and realize it was just the 11 o'clock chat lull. Oh, Sad Mac was just lurking. All right, thanks, Sad Mac, for. Hey, it's okay when you're lurking, but I do like to at least occasionally like to know the chat works. So yeah, thanks for confirming that the chat was working. Because I have had streams before where the chat is going crazy trying to point something out to me, and the view of the chat in OBS is not updating. I think during one of those times, someone sent me a text message or a Discord message like, hey, you not see the chat? And the answer was no. The chat was not working in OBS. Yeah. Thanks, Sadmac. You can go back to lurking now. Chat's just slow. That's fine. I understand. Yes, I would like to point out that YouTube is prompting me to turn on advertisements. So I'm hoping I've picked a happy balance since I'm now at 1,000 subscribers and I can um, have the full YouTube Partner Program benefits. I hope that it's a acceptable compromise that I think the way the choices I'm able to select, I selected it as there, you've got pre-roll ads, which I hope weren't super obnoxious. And you get sidebar ads, but I didn't turn on advertisements in the middle of the stream, and I'm hoping that's how it's working for everyone that's not like a YouTube Premium subscriber. But yeah, YouTube's wanting me to turn on ads in the stream, and I'm like, no. Sadmax seems fine to me. All right, excellent. There we go. So we see 2 caches here. Yeah, hopefully that's a decent compromise to ad revenue share versus. Quite honestly, I like the interaction. I don't need interruptions in the middle of the stream. And I think though, if I did ever decide that I wanted to insert an ad break, I would do it in the way where it's like at a known time in the stream where it'd be like, okay, at the halfway mark, I'll run a 2-minute stretch and insert an ad there. And sometimes I need a 2-minute stretch, but nope, not even doing that right now. Like, nope, I don't need to do that. There we go. All right, the K62 450 is benchmarking about like a 450. Wow, shocker. That's an interesting thought. Like, I mean, I'm sure the extra cache helped with something, but I do know I've read though that the K62 processors are um they're one of their biggest bottlenecks. I mean, their their pipeline, I think they're like a 6 stage pipeline design or something like that. Um which I think is makes it so that it was hard for AMD to scale the clock speed probably much past where they got it. But I think the other thing was the front side bus is really a bottleneck to the processor. Just keeping the processor fed is like another one of the shortcomings. I had this thought of were the plus processors really that much better? But then I realized that no, I think in a way, yeah, they probably were because the extra cache would still help keep the processor fed, especially if you had loops or something. All right, so I'm doing this. Uh, so we did the K62. Now I'm going to do the K62 Plus 450, and I do need to set the core V core down to 2 volts. Oh, there we go. Looks like a All right, so this is supposedly a new old stock processor, and it does look like a pin. One of the there's like a pin that got bent slightly. One or two pins. I'm trying to just kind of straighten it out here real quick. There we go. That's fine. Jack says new old stock or not otherwise specified. Who could tell? Yeah. Hi Jack, welcome. Just trying to. There's just like one or two pins that are just like ever so slightly bent still. Oh, there we go. There's the. All right. So what's happened tonight? Well, we Wheel of Regrets, and then I started testing the some of the processors that I got on the Asus motherboard. And then realized very quickly that I couldn't test them all on that board because it's the version that has the wrong voltage regulator to support 2 volts. I'm having trouble finding the bent pin. I see it when I look at the pins on Edge, but I'm having trouble actually seeing it to bend it. So I pulled out this motherboard. It's from my second PC rebuild project. And there we go. We tested the. So we just ran the K62 450 that I had checked on the other board, and now we've got a K62 Plus that I just put in, and I got to adjust the voltage regulator, and then we'll get the K63 Plus. So 2, 3, 4, and 5 need to be on for 2 volts. Yeah, there we go. 2, 3, 4, 5 on for 2 volts. Excellent. For some reason, with the K62 450, the Asus board benchmarked better. There we go, K62 Plus 450. So this one is the one that I got for $36 total. Yeah, the K62 Pluses, if you're patient and you're not looking for like the 550 version of them, then you can usually get them for a fairly reasonable price. They do still have the level 2 cache built in. It's half the amount of the 3 Plus. I do know that it is sometimes possible to turn the 2 Pluses into a 3 Plus. You have to remove the lid and then like fill in a trace, or there's like basically under the lid there's some jumper links that AMD I guess would connect at the factory, and I think there's like 1 or 2 jumper links that you put back with a conductive pin or something, and that tells it it's a 3 Plus. Now the drawback is some of the 2 Pluses are 2 Pluses because half the cache failed. So if your 2 Plus is one of those, then it's not going to work as a 3 Plus, and you'll have to undo that. But some of the 2 pluses are 2 pluses because AMD needed 2 pluses to sell, and all the cache is working. So those you can turn into a basically get a free upgrade to a 3 plus. There we go, 102.46. So that's actually where the K6 400 benchmark. So, that's interesting. So, half the level 2 cache, but 50 megahertz faster, and it benchmarked about where the 3 did. Okay, interesting. All right, we will run speed sys. Yep, that landed about the same place on the processor benchmark between the Pentium 2 400 and the K6 500. So, all right, but it looks like this processor is working. Excellent. So we will get the K6 Plus 450 here as soon as this is done. Luckily, all I got to do is put it in the board because it uses the same core voltage as this processor. So all I got to do is put it in and power up. Uh-oh. Extended memory failed. Oh, no. I don't know what that's about on SpeedSys, but obviously it's running tests. I mean, it is possible that the RAM in this board might be bad. Or there might be problems with it. All right. So there we go. That's the K6 Plus. Now let's see if the K6 Plus is going to dazzle me. Jack says, call Trina, it needs a MIM test. Yeah, it probably does need a MIM test. All right. So the K6 Plus was a total of $36. And at least the last time I checked, the eBay seller still had stock. There we go. I don't know that I fully got the bent pin straightened out, but all right. At least I didn't like mangle things. All right, so here we go. This is the K6 Plus that I bought on eBay, the place where I buy the things I later regret. It is possible that this is going to be a regret because this was more than $36. I'll put it that way. All right, well, that's a good sign. A6 450. Well, that's... maybe this BIOS doesn't differentiate between the Plus version. All right, so check CPU. Oh, there we go. Check CPU knows that it's a Plus. There we go. AMD K6 Plus, 450 megahertz. Yep, all right. So it's a Plus. I was about to say, the heat spreader has the Plus engraved on it. And I was pretty sure it was engraved by AMD. So I was about to freak out a little bit there when it only told me it was a 3. After all, the process, for those of y'all that stuck around, I'll now admit, now that I know the processor works, that I paid $155 plus shipping for the 3 Plus. And I now see that my money was... Doom benchmarked no better. Yeah, I think I'm about to come to the conclusion on the 3 Plus processor that, for a lot of things, the 2 Plus might be just as good, and it's cheaper. Because it didn't run Doom any faster. Alright, I'm sure there's things that extra cache on the 3 Plus probably run faster, but I think one conclusion that this is showing, at least for a small number of benchmarks, that I guess at least on this motherboard, the extra cache on the 3 Plus isn't helping. It is possible that the fact that this is a 2 megabyte cache board might be why maybe why some of the performance is why it's not really showing that much of a difference. I think Doom did benchmark a little bit faster. But yeah, so let's... Honestly, I think that ALI chipset, that Asus board might actually be faster than this board in some ways, but it's got the voltage regulator version that doesn't do 2 volts, so go figure. If I can find the chip... The problem is, I can't find... I searched eBay, and I didn't see any sellers selling the non-B revision, and some of them were selling even newer versions. So, I can't find anyone selling the original version of that chip that would support 2 volts, so... However, we could put the K6-3 450 on that board because it's a 2.4 volt core. That might be a good experiment to end the stream with. But anyways. Looky there. No errata. Except the fact that it skipped the AMD K6 bug check, because I think if it checked that, it would crash the system. Or something. Alright, so... Alright, so that's this board. And I guess at the moment I'll leave my K6 3 Plus processor on it. Because it's honestly the one I'll probably leave in my second PC rebuild. Because while I'm not totally for sure I had a Plus processor back then, I seemingly remember that I might have bought one just because it had the extended 3D Now instructions. Not that anything probably ever really used it. But, of course, he was like, hey, got more instructions. That means it'll stay relevant longer, right? Software might come out that uses these instructions, and it won't have to buy the processor later because I'll already have it and I can run that software. Right. And yet 3D now, I'm just cleaning this processor off a little bit. There we go. So there we go. It's the Epox board and the K6 3 Plus processor, which, from what I can see, yeah, I'd probably recommend if you're looking for a Plus processor. I think I might recommend to just look for a 2 Plus. And then maybe if you're feeling adventurous, you might try the mod. After all, if I feel like trying to figure out how to remove the lid on a 2 Plus processor, maybe I might pick up another one of those 2 Plus 450s. Because, I don't know, that might be a price where it might be worth the nostalgia of trying a vintage upgrade trick. Back then, it would have been that this one small trick will get you faster performance at no extra cost. All you got to do is remove the heat spreader and change a few things and then put it back on. All right, so I do need to. All right, so let me check here. I'm gonna have to change the multiplier, I believe. 2 3 1 2 2 3. Yep. Mhm. That should be a four multiplier now. And voltage, need to set that to 2.4 volts. And 1 2 1 2 2 3 1 2. Excellent. That is all right. It's already set to 2.4 volts. All right. So I know this motherboard. This is the board that has issues with the plus processors, that they run slower than their non-plus counterpart. Well, this is a non-plus processor, so let's see how it runs. The weird thing is, I would have thought that this processor would also be affected because the K6 3 has level 2 cache built in. I think the K6 3 Plus only adds the 3D Now, enhanced 3D Now instructions, so there we go. AMD K6 3 400. All right, so let's go ahead and do a Doom. So I believe our K6 450 in the same board with the same video card, same RAM, was 136.79 frames per second. And our K6 146.74. Wow. All right, no slowdowns there. All right, so let's run speed sys. All right. Yep. Pentium 2 400. Well, that matches the performance and speed sys we saw on the other motherboard, so that tracks. I don't know why that. Oh, I wonder if the VIA motherboard. I always thought the VIA chipset was better, but maybe the ALI chipset had the better AGP implementation. Maybe that's why Doom's running better on this motherboard. Maybe ALI had the better AGP implementation, but maybe not the better drivers. Because I seemingly remember preferring the VIA MVP3 chipset, but maybe that was just the drivers were better up front. I don't know. That's information I've forgotten. So I am impressed by this Asus motherboard, and maybe I will have to pair it with my K6 processor, because this thing is screaming in this board. And then I won't have to do that annoying mod either. I guess we can run cache check here just to confirm that we've got all the caches enabled, but all right. I'm about to wrap the stream because I'm starting to get cold and we're at midnight and I do have to go to work tomorrow. But we'll let cache check run and then I'll give you my closing thoughts. I guess I can start to give you my closing thoughts while cache check runs. Okay, so this is Zeus board. I really would like to recap it. So I guess probably when I get a chance, I'll have to come up with a cap list. But I'm thinking maybe some of its inabilities to post right away might be capacitor related. Because it does have some of those aqua green colored caps that are usually the ones you want to stay away from on motherboards. So I guess I'll put it this way. Recapping it couldn't hurt. Well, I mean, I could burn myself with the soldering iron, but it couldn't hurt the motherboard to try it. What probably the worst that would happen is I break fine pitch traces, but let's not think of that negativity. Worst is it wouldn't post reliably. It'd still require a couple power cycles to post. It's probably worth the recap attempt. Hot air gun would help get them off, so. Timer messed up. Wow. Oh, yeah, the timer did mess up. Yeah, at least it's able to detect that the timer gave it a incorrect time. I think that's because the number is so small. I don't know. Yeah, as Sadmax says, basically, recapping it, it's worth a shot. It's not like it won't post less reliably. Yeah. I would say at worst it would post as well as it does now. But there's a good chance it would post more reliably. So I think it is worth a shot. And I think I've done enough of these multi-layer boards to know that the trick to recapping them is hot air gun to preheat the area where the capacitor is, desoldering gun, fresh solder if necessary, and if it really doesn't want to desolder after applying fresh solder once, then try some low melt solder. But hopefully, if I've caught it before the capacitors have leaked, then they should desolder. I'm thinking this board is probably old enough it's leaded solder still, so the lead-free solder would require higher heat. Also, I think on a board like this, it's in good enough condition. Higher desoldering and soldering temperature. So bump it up to like 850 degrees Fahrenheit instead of 750, which on an older board I'd use 750 because they're fragile. This board I could probably get away with 850 because it looks like it's in good shape. Anyways, yeah, I think I would like to recap this Azus board and give that a shot. My Epox board, I think I'm going to leave, at least for now, because I'd rather leave it in a board, because it's probably safer in a board than not. I will leave my K63 Plus in it. Also, if I do get the caps to recap the Azus board, I probably will. I'll order the proper 1K resistor, and we'll go ahead and we'll do the mod to the socket at the same time, so that I can try plus processors in it. But yeah, I think I like this Azus board. Other than it's got the wrong version voltage regulator for using 2-volt processors. I could probably run them at 2.1 volts. I think that's still under the absolute max voltage for the 2-volt AMD K6s. But they're old processors. I'd rather not overvolt them. But yeah, all 3 AMD K6 processors that I got in over the past week, they all worked, which is great. I am going to go, let me check my eBay account here real quick. I'm going to go look at that seller that sold the K6 2 Plus processors. Because quite honestly, oh, they have more than 10 available still. So I'm going to put that in the chat, because quite honestly, and I think there's another seller selling those K6 2 Plus 450s at about the same price. But I think that's actually a decent price for that processor. And I mean, there was like a pin or two that got slightly bent, but that's actually not a bad price for what seems like actually a fairly decent K6 2 Plus. Now, the only caveat with that processor is it is a 2-volt core, which there are motherboards like the Asus in front of me that won't do 2-volt core. So that would be one thing to keep in mind. But the ones you really have to watch out for are the 1.6 volt and 1.8 volt K6 2 and 3s. Although I think mainly those were the laptop parts. There are a lot of Super 7 motherboards that don't support the laptop voltages. I think my Epox board, though, will support... I think that was the other reason I bought it for my not necessarily why I bought it back then, but what caught my eye when I found it on eBay when I did is, yeah, this Epox board does do 1.8 volt CPU core. And maybe that is the lowest voltage for the K6 2 and 3 mobile parts. I was thinking there might have been a 1.6 volt core, but anyways, that is the one caveat. There we go. Yep, it looks like it's seeing the L1 cache in the it's seeing the L2 cache in the processor and the L3 cache on the motherboard. It's not seeing the L1 cache on the processor because it's just so fast. Or it's probably not able to distinguish it because the L1 cache is running at the same clock speed as, or the L2 cache in the processor is running at the same clock speed as the L1 cache. It probably can't distinguish between the two because they're running at the same speed. So, yeah, I think this is a, I guess we will run the, just because everyone likes to see it. At 384.9 frames per second. Wow. All right. Because everyone likes to see the bouncing computer. So, all right. With that, I think that's a good spot to wrap the stream. So, we got this Asus board. It's going to go on my recap list. Epox board got the K63 Plus in it. My K63 is in this board right now for safekeeping. So the K62 Plus, I don't have another Super Socket 7 board to put it in, so it'll go in my stack of AMD K6 processors for testing boards. The K6 450 that I bought, the only reason I bought it is because it was $14 total, and I have a problem, and my problem is when the processors are priced at really cheap prices, and I think that they're priced so that a gold scalper might buy them. I do sometimes buy them for the gamble. Yeah, $14 was totally reasonable, and that was like after shipping and tax. So, yeah, when they're under $15 and they look like they're in good shape, I have been known to buy one just as a, hey, let's try it out during Wheel of Regrets. So now don't you all list all your K62s on eBay for a total of $15 just to try to get me to buy them. I think I'll see right through that, but it's the occasional one I stumble upon, and it looks like it could be in working shape. I like the sense of when I get the impression the seller really did not test it because they don't look like they have or had the things to test it. And that was the case with that one seller that sent it to me in the drill bit case. I got the impression from their listings that they probably really didn't have a way to test it. Or they'd already sold the computer one. I didn't know which. Seems like they really didn't have a way to test it. So I won. It'll give me another one. So I don't know. There's also always the possibility that I might have a few K62 processors that are spares with me at BCF East. Or I'll just hold on to them in case I've managed to fry one. That might be the other good reason. Some of these boards, the jumper settings are tricky. So I do also like to at least have spares of processors I'm likely need for testing. But anyways, that was good. All three of those processors worked. We didn't get to test the keyboard. We'll have to do that some other time. got the SATA modules. Yeah, was there anything? Oh, I guess to kind of spoil things I might be working on in the future. So this is not an eBay purchase. It also just dawned on me that if I open this, I can take the Fireball upstairs and enjoy it later. To kind of see thoughts of what I might be able to work on in the future, let's see what I got from Console 5. All right. And yeah, I'm stick the Fireball in my pocket. Yeah, I got caps. So here's an idea of things that might be on my live streams in the future. Also, when you order from Console 5, you always get a little handy card that kind of gives you a little information on caps. So that's always nice. But here we go. I've got a snap-in capacitor. A short one. I think this goes with one of the kits. This was like one of the add-on parts for a kit. These are in no particular order. Actually, they're probably in the order that they got packed in. LC475 cap kit. Don't forget what comes in about a week and 2 days. Got some Genesis switches. These are the reset switch replacements. Got a PlayStation 2 fat belt for the DVD drive. After all, they don't call me Justin DVD Morgan for nothing. We have a Genesis cap kit, which looks like, quite honestly, Luke just pulls a number of the same cap off of a reel and then includes a few more. I didn't realize how many of the same value was in this particular version of the Genesis. Oh yeah, there we go. We got a Sony PS2 power supply cap kit. And we got a network adapter cap kit. And wait a minute. And I might have to check the packing slip because I thought I had a PS2. I thought I had a PS2 cap kit on that order as well. Huh? I'm going to have to check the order. Anyways, hi, lazy bite boy. Anyways, with that, preview of my Console 5 order, and I will check on that. Because I thought I'd ordered a PS2 motherboard cap kit, and I clearly don't have that in here. So I will definitely reach out to Luke, and if I don't have it, I will reach out, and I'm sure he'll make it right. But it's also possible that somehow I managed to miss it on the order. That is also possible. So it could be my error as well. So I will have to check on that. I might have made a really weird mistake when I ordered those parts. But anyways, with that, that is where we're going to wrap the stream for tonight. Luckily, we had a good stream. Didn't really want to have to cancel Tuesday's stream, but YouTube was having problems, so least tonight, everything worked out. Lazy Bite Boy says, just ordered a Model 1 Genesis on eBay the other day. I should probably look into what caps I might need. Yep. I don't know if how likely they are to need caps, but I decided that the Genesis I have, I was going to just go ahead and refurb it. Because I have to... I will save that description for when I actually work on it. But anyways, I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Hope to see you here next Tuesday at 8. I think I can start at 8 p.m. next Tuesday. And I'll also be streaming next Thursday. So I hope to see you here then. Kind of starting to really get cold. So with that, I'm going to draw the stream to a close. So take care and God bless. And Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support. I hope to see you next time. And until then, take care.